not the hello world value that I saved,
Okay,
but this thing called undefined. So even though the function was below where it was executed, it still ran. And in fact, this a variable was available to me, even though it wasn't the full value. Watch what happens if I just remove it outright. So I'm trying to console.log a, and I don't have it declared as a variable anywhere. Now, I actually get an error. A is not defined. But if I put it back, so that somewhere on this JavaScript file I have that a variable declared, instead of an error, I get a value, the phrase undefined. This phenomenon is called hoisting. But the way it's explained, I think, can give you the wrong impression. The way, if you look online, that hoisting is explained is that people say, well, that variables and functions in JavaScript are hoisted or moved to the top by the JavaScript engine, as if they were moved physically up to the top so that they work, no matter where you put them. But we can tell that that's not quite right,
finished?
Because A wasn't set to hello world, so it wasn't like this line was physically moved. It behaves a bit more like this, as if I had a variable declared and set the value later. But still, that's really not what's happening, because we already said what's executing isn't what you've written. It's being translated by the JavaScript engine.
Let's see.
So it's not like
Is
the
this shit
JavaScript
working or what's up?
is physically moving the code
0%.
that you typed around and then executed it. So let's undo all this.
I mean, wasn't it using it?
Here's the code that we wrote. To understand what JavaScript is doing, we just need to dig a little bit deeper into the execution context and how it's created. The reason JavaScript behaves the way it does, that variables and functions are to some degree available even though they're written later in the code, is because the execution context is created in two phases. The first phase is called the creation phase. In that phase, we know we have the global object, which is set up and in memory. We have this, which is set up and in memory. And again, the global object only referring to when we're dealing with the global execution context. We'll see other execution contexts later. But this is always created inside an execution context. There's an outer environment that's created. And in that creation phase, as the parser runs through your code and begins to set up what you've written for translation, it recognizes where you've created variables and where you've created functions. And so it sets up, in this creation phase, the memory space for the variables and functions. And it's that step that is somewhat confusingly called hoisting.
Sound on the first place on this
It's
stuff.
not actually moving code to the top of the page. All this means is that before your code begins to be executed line by line, the JavaScript engine has already set aside memory space for the variables that you've created in that entire code that you've built, and all of the functions that you've created as well. So those functions and those variables exist in memory. So when the code begins to execute line by line, it can access them. However, when it comes to variables, it's a little bit different. You see, the function in its entirety is placed into memory space, meaning that the function, its name, and the code inside the function that's being executed. However, the next phase, the execution phase, which we'll talk about in a moment, where it actually executes your code line by line, that's when these kind of assignments are set, where A equals something. So the JavaScript engine, when it sets up the memory space for A, it doesn't know what its value will ultimately end up being until it starts executing this code. So instead, it puts a placeholder called undefined. That placeholder means oh, I don't know what this value is yet. That's the same placeholder that we would have if we never set it at all. All variables in JavaScript are initially set to undefined, and functions are sitting in memory in their entirety. That's why it's actually a bad idea to rely on hoisting in any way. You can run into trouble when you realize that that value is actually undefined and not the value you're expecting. So while this technically kind of works, it's better to always do this so that you don't get caught up in that trap. Now, that
$2,
said,
you skip the $1, makes it look like
we're
less.
talking about
What are the
hoisting.
differences? Well, obviously,
We're talking
with the
about
Pro name, you're
This
expecting to have...
scenario where I can call the function even though it's declared later, it really has to do with the fact that what I wrote is not what's directly being executed, but the JavaScript engine is then taking my code and making decisions. In this first phase of creating the execution context, the wrapper around my code being executed, it's going to set up the memory space for the functions and the variables that it sees that are going to be used when it starts executing the code. And, therefore, we have access to them in a limited way before they actually physically appear on the page inside that lexical environment. Kind of weird, right? But not so much when you understand that it's just phase one. I'm going to set up the memory space. So when the code begins executing, those things are actually already sitting in memory because it looked at your code and already preset things up to be ready for the code to start executing. It's time for another conceptual aside. We've already talked about this a bit, but it's important enough to delve just a little bit into JavaScript and undefined. We've already seen that there's this first phase of creating an execution context in which there's a global object for the global execution context. There's a special variable called this, which is always created. There's a reference or a link to the outer environment if there is one. And this phenomenon called hoisting, where variables are set up and functions as well. In the case of variables, they're initially set equal to undefined. But what do we mean by that? Well, let's go back and make our example a bit simpler. I'll get rid of the function and the function call, and we'll just focus on the concept of undefined. So I'll just take my variable a, declare it, and then log it. I'll go ahead and run this in brackets. And we see the phrase undefined. Now remember, we already saw that if I don't declare it at all with the var keyword, it actually throws an error where it says A is not defined. But that's confusing because isn't not defined
And let's see, where do we do
undefined the same thing?
a fortress? What is this?
When
Dune.
we say, and I'm going to put the var a back, in JavaScript, when we see undefined as opposed to that error, this isn't simply the word undefined.
Butters of
But it's
Gorging.
actually a special value that JavaScript has within it internally that means that the variable
Dark
has
Goblin
a
Fortress
set.
of
To prove
Negev
that,
Sun
I'll show you
Dog.
something.
The heroic
If
eyes.
A, I'm going to do triple equals. Now, if you've never seen triple equals before, we'll talk about that at length later in the course. But this is very similar to double equals is equal to, but it's a bit safer, and we'll see why later. Just for now, we'll just use triple equals because this is good practice, and we'll explain why when the time comes. But for now, just imagine using triple equals anywhere where you would use double equals.
Let's see if I can
triple
even do
equals,
like
and
an
then I'm gonna
eyes
say the word
thing.
undefined.
It'd be freaking great.
And then if it's undefined, I'm going to output a phrase. A is undefined. And then I'll put else. If it's not undefined,
Are my zooms even
I'll
like
put
taking into account in here?
console.log. A is undefined. Notice that undefined isn't wrapped in quotes. This isn't a string. It's a special keyword. It's a value, a special value in JavaScript. When I go back and run this, notice that A is undefined. So when this if statement
Hey, that's
checked
working
A was
then.
equal to this special keyword, this special value, undefined, it said yes, it is.
As approved.
If I was to set A up here equal to a value, then by the time we get down here, A is set, and so A is defined. This was false. It was not equal to undefined. But if I don't set the value, again, this will be true, because the
Wait, what
initial
happened?
phase of creating the execution context sets all
Okay, you just
variables
finished.
equal to undefined. And if you don't do anything else, that's what that value will be. Notice again, this is different than if I simply never declared the variable var a and attempt to console.log a. When I refresh this, it gives me an uncaught reference error, A is not defined. That's because that initial execution context creation, that creation phase, when it went through, it didn't find a var A, so it never set up the memory space. So when it went to execute this code, it said, hey, I don't have A in memory at all. So it gave you an uncaught reference, A is not defined. I don't have it in memory. That's what the browser is saying. That's what the JavaScript engine inside the browser is saying.
Kirk Smash is the best, dude.
However, when I declare var A is placed into memory during the creation
hello
phase.
and welcome to my channel.
So the execution context saw var A and set up.
Hi, it's Tony Robbins and Dean.
memory.
Listen, we have a question for you.
And so
What are you going
even
to do
though I
when
haven't
winter
set it
comes?
to a value,
Now, this is not an HBO
the
special.
JavaScript engine, which is doing more than what I'm just writing in my code, already set it to the special value called undefined. So undefined is not like empty or doesn't exist. It doesn't literally not exist. It's actually a value. It's actually taking up memory space. It's a special keyword, a special value that means this is the value that was initially set by JavaScript. And that leads to a little bit of a warning. Never do this. Never set yourself a variable equal to undefined. Because actually you can.
Year
For
4.
example, I could set
Nicole
this
Kazan.
initially to hello world, and then console.log it, and later for some reason set it to
Hello,
undefined.
you bearded
see
bastards,
that
and
it
welcome
is
back once again to Nicole Kazan. I shall
world,
al Disaf
and then later-
Eshad Rosh.
It's undefined,
Skull Horror.
That's perfectly
The frigid
valid
South
JavaScript.
Nightmare Fortress.
but it's a little
of
dangerous.
Let's see the
And as
bars
you
of
just saw,
rapidity.
It is now year 4. Yes, believe it or not, we've been here for 4 entire years. And the fortress has not yet
Never
crumbled.
set the value.
We must be doing something,
That will
right?
really help
Now then,
you
let's zoom it in here a little bit. Yes, things are going rather well. You can see how the dwarves are very busy, and most of them are managing to keep it together at least somewhat. Even those angry dwarves that we saw before, which really is something. I've noticed a couple of them actually turning around too, which is just excellent. Kalovi, for one, that nasty poet that threw a tantrum last episode, she's completely stress-free right now. And in fact, she's been promoted to broker. Yeah, you know what? I like the cut of her jib. Quite a dwarf, I'll tell you. You may actually notice right here that she is carrying a chunk of gold up to the
Let's see.
north. Up towards that shaft that we're going to use to get gold down to the smelters very quickly. Yeah, it's now all carved out and working swimmingly. In fact, almost all the gold nuggets that were up here are now thrown down to the magma smelter layer. And just having a brief look down below, you can see all the smelters and a magma forge are now in place. And so now gold production is in full swing. Let's see, are there any other bits of good news? Yes, of course there are. Our food and drink stocks have stabilized for the most part. We have a lot more drinks than food. And we are trying to get a balance going. Still, the variety is kind of lacking. But yeah, we're working on that. Mostly just waiting for these pigs to start breeding a bit quicker. Don't want to start butchering them too soon. Here's something else a bit interesting. We're looking down underneath the meeting hall right now. Here you can see our new well, all filled up with water. It just filled up actually. It's fed from the aquifer and is 2 zero deep. And back up here, you can see that there are 4 wells up on this level. 2 in the meeting hall and 2 in our hospital, which we also just got finished. In fact, speaking of our hospital, and zooming in a bit, you can see Rakkus, our expedition leader, in this hospital bed right here. Recently, she just got the crap beaten out of her by an angry dwarf. I did say most of the dwarves were pretty cool lately. Not all of them. And in fact, the dwarf had approached her and just started wailing on her. It wasn't so bad at first, but then they just kind of stood over her and intermittently kept beating her. It was pretty bad. The dwarf that caused this really got what's coming to them. They got beaten by Bomrek, who is now our sheriff, pretty severely too. And so they had to be brought to the hospital as well. And actually they were in beds right next to each other, which must have been kind of awkward. But we didn't have enough water, so we could not get them anything to drink. And so we had to really hurry to get that well finished quickly. And we did, just in time. Well, in time to save Rakkus anyways. The other dwarf ended up dehydrating. And remember, since we're in a zombie biome, the dwarf that died right next to Rakkus could come back as a zombie. But luckily it did not. And that body was put in our tomb. Oh, this right here. The door of which is now locked. Because as you can see, that dwarf did come back and is now a zombie, just kind of wandering through the tomb. Kind of ghastly, right? Probably gonna put some traps up and try to catch the thing in a cage. But we're not in any huge rush on that. Right now we're trying to get Rakkus back up on her feet. Although I'm pretty sure she lost her ability to stand. Things might be pretty rough for her now. And so I'm actually thinking about replacing her as our expedition leader. Kind of a shame, but it's a rough life out here, and we can't have a weak leader. It just wouldn't do. Something else we did this past year. Yeah, it has been a busy year. We needed a mist generator for our meeting hall, which isn't exactly completed just yet. But it's getting there. If you have a look right here in the middle of the meeting hall, there's kind of like a ring-shaped channel on the floor. And up above that, in the ceiling, we dug a hole out there that one above our farm area. And it taps into the aquifer above, and is controlled by a floodgate. And it's all linked up, so we can open and close it at will. Now when it does open, that water will come down here, splash onto the middle of this ring-shaped channel, and then hopefully down here, where it will drain out into this tunnel over here. And that is linked up to the 3rd cavern there.
Alright, let's see. You have finally arrived. Your journey from mountain homes into forbidden wilderness beyond your heart's strike have finally ended. Your party of 7 to make an apples of glory of Estos them. There are almost no more supplies left, but with stout labor comes sustenance, whether by bold plow or hook. Provide for your dwarfs. You are expecting to supply a caravan just before winter intimidates you. But it's spring now, enough time to flick towers strike the air.
Why JavaScript behaves the way it does. It's time for another conceptual aside when it comes to JavaScript. This one is single-threaded, synchronous execution. So we have 2 rather large-looking terms. So guess what? They work. First of all, single-threaded. It sounds pretty complicated, but it's easy to understand. That means that one command is being executed at a time. So any program is full of many commands within the code. Single-threaded execution means you're only doing one at a time. Now, when we're dealing with browsers, understand that JavaScript isn't the only thing happening in the browser. So when we say JavaScript is single-threaded, it may not be under the hood of the browser, but from our perspective as programmers, JavaScript behaves in a single-threaded manner. Alright, the next one. And once again, big word alert. Synchronous. This is very similar to single-threaded. Synchronous meaning, in the purposes of programming, one at a time. Not 2 at a time, 3 at a time, but one line of code being executed for synchronous execution at a time, and for our purposes, in order. So the code is executed one line at a time in the order that it appears. And that's it. Single-threaded synchronous execution, meaning that in JavaScript, only one thing is happening at a time. Now I know what you're probably...
It's probably okay. How shall I make this? Okay, remove these ones. We're gonna make our entrance actually right here. Something like that. Let's see what chickens, stuff like that. Oh my god, okay. You all freaking man, bro. Wait a second. Now if I do go downstairs over there, it's gonna be mess. Okay, I can have a door over there. Let's have all the living quarters already over there. Designate other plants. Snowstorm. I can put the sounds already. Let's see. Oh wait. Locations. Set over there. Civilization worthy for building reports. Location and occupation self-look towers. Wait, L. Messenger. No. Nobles and administrators. Go south. for the moment. Room and buildings, set building task and preference queue. Now it's like designate traffic areas. Be arranged buildings T. Location occupations be units. Be items and buildings be rooms. Wagon. Haulings, zones I. They're gonna be meeting area. Make burrows, bro. Okay, there you go. Delete. Yes. Find this burrow. Okay, it's gonna be like over here. Initial burrow. Alright. Let's see distance to burrow. Let's see. Oh, but we'll need to check all of them. Nice. Gonna be the hall, eating hall. So from the beginning, eating hall. Okay, let's make this one like the fighting quarters, training quarters, and all around the training quarters. Let's start putting some living area. It's like 3 by 4, 5. Let's see if that even works out. Alright, here and up downstairs. Gisela downstairs. Something that we can check, like what's at the top over here. And then maybe we can make traps over there, and then just something keep going kind of down south here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, let's see. From the Tobia, let's see what's up with this shit. Okay, at least they're starting to put all the stuff over there on their burrow. Let's see what kind of units do we have. Living quarters over there. Let's have quite some freaking storage. So the kitchen be over here. And if that's so, we can even have the butcher back here. Downstairs. And here we can put like all the food. bad. Okay, we're still gonna need some time. What the hell's going on over here? So how will this be? Decompose. See the deeper axis. Or is this because what? Because I'm in fucking mountains and shit? Well, actually the cool thing is down here there don't seem to be plants and stuff. What is this? Termites. Where are these anyways? It's probably that. Probably that. for them to freaking eat. It's saving and it's taking forever or something. Come on, save already. Geo. I don't know who's watching, but hope you're enjoying this random stuff. Okay, let's continue. Maybe, okay, I need to put like space for them to graze, most likely. Let's put it right here. Sounds. At the moment, what the train, yeah, all that shit. What is this, anyways? Raw light, Galena. Okay, we're gonna need that anyways. How the hell is that not? Let's see, gather plants. Whoa, what did they do there? Pond. Wait. Throne. 5 thrones. You're gonna be none, dude. Where's the bed, bro? 69. I'll probably hit something by then. This guy got freaking stuck over here. Ok, voy a pasar ese que I'm gonna smooth and where is this? Set remove. At least I feel satisfied, the motherfuckers. Let's see. Is he able to finish the bets? Let's go the way do this. My dwarves are getting beds, dude. Wheel table. Just make it like one strand and then we'll see what's up. Need some running plant. Where am I putting all the freaking goodies and stuff? Because this guy's chugging so they cooler down there. Alright, let's go up to 99. Let's go to 100 and see what happens. Citrine, diorite. I can do a lot of stone stuff. Wow, that guy finishes fast. Actually, I might as well just freaking get there now. I need to plan something. Damn, I totally freaking dig. Until 125. That's quite some. Maybe because I'm in a freaking mountain or something. Where the hell did my little dwarfy ended up? Oh shit. I was right in the middle. I'm like, can you mine in cave moss? So this can be planted. Let's make plantations real quick over here. Totally chose a bad place to go down. Alright guys, I think I might freaking just save for right now. It's been Gucci.